We are so happy to be back together again for this afternoon service of renewal and healing. We hope you will sing with us and read with us as our music and words appear on your screen, as always.
We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, return again. We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, return again and again to love. We return again to love. Ashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh yameinu kekeder. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, return again. We return, we return, we return, we return, we return, return again and again to love. We return again to love.
I hope you will join me as we read together these opening prayers. Said the Holy One to Israel, I asked you to pray in the synagogue of your city, but if you cannot pray in the synagogue, pray outdoors in an open field. And if you cannot pray in a field, pray in the shelter of your home. And if you cannot pray in your home, pray in the dark on your bed. And if you cannot pray on your bed, meditate in your heart without words. So wherever you are right now, none of us are in our synagogue. Many of us are in our homes or near other people we know. The place where you are is the place where you are meant to be. And we are so glad to be with you this afternoon. We stand as one. At this hour, Israel stands as one in prayer. All Jews on earth unite through memory and hope. A people unafraid, unvanquished, says to God, this people you have formed still lives to tell your praise, still lives to share this teaching with our youth. Our ancient journey has not reached its end. The faith implanted at our people's birth is realized from age to age, our sacred covenant. This people, few in number, ventured forth to carve a lonely path through wilderness, with dreams of vines and fig trees, justice in the gates, the land at peace. And still we make our way across the desert. This people you have formed still lives to walk before you. Exiled once to Babylon, we learned the unity of God. A second time dispersed by Rome, we learned that humankind is one. Hear, O Israel, the call still sounds. Eternity is ever present in your midst, a heritage of sacred purpose in your heart. Your past tells a story for all peoples. Your future holds a promise still unfolding. At this hour, Israel stands at one in prayer. All Jews on earth unite through memory and hope. We look at one another and we know who we are. We look to our Creator and we know our strength. In pursuit of truth, this people lives to serve the Most High for the sake of life. Behind us, pain and glory. Before us, holy work. Timeless words command us. Toward eternity we gaze. So a few times during this afternoon service, I am going to share some of the sins that you submitted on our digital cards this year through our web form, totally anonymously. And I have, as I often do, as Rabbi Frishman sort of did with us also, organized them sort of into groups. Nothing is totally perfectly boundaried, but I notice the patterns that emerge in terms of what we comment on in our lives. And so this is our first group of sin cards this year. I need to relinquish bad habits and take better care of myself. I have continually been pulled in by daily tasks, getting so bogged down as to miss our collective wholeness. I have presumed there is a right answer to be found, continually holding myself accountable for getting it right. I have taken my husband for granted. I continue to drink as it temporarily numbs my feelings, but I know it's hurting my family. I will work really hard to start believing in myself and God. I will reach out for help. And I just want to say that if you who wrote this are here this afternoon, would be very happy to help, to connect with you and help offer the kind of support that you may be indicating that you are looking to have access to this year. Somebody wrote, just fear. I had been procrastinating rather than making deliberate time to do things that bring me joy, not taking care of myself. I have always struggled with patience. Now more than ever, perhaps, I find myself needing to stop, take a moment, and be more patient in my interactions with other people, especially my family members. We spend a lot of time together, more than usual now. Now is the time to communicate better, to address issues before they fester, and to move on lovingly. I wish I could be more optimistic about many things, life in general, but especially during this pandemic, I have battled depression over many years, but never sought help or medication. I know I should, but I don't. Perhaps my biggest sin as part of this is often feeling like my sadness and loneliness could be over if I contracted COVID and died, ending my loneliness. I know that's a terrible thought and wouldn't be fair to my family, especially my children. Again, I want to offer myself as a resource to you if you are out there or if this resonates with you. Lots of people, myself included, who can offer the kind of support that so many people need in this moment. My sin is harming myself by letting things affect me and get me too much. I did better this year, but my sin is the perfectionist standards I put on myself when I know I need to be learning and growing. I'm always working on becoming my best self. I suppressed my anger until it destroyed my ability to receive all the good that surrounded me, especially from the person I loved. This included neglecting myself. It came out in ways that I can't take back, but now I am learning from. I want to forgive family members who are hurtful and who have caused pain to me and my family. This next prayer was written just for this year by, you see here, by Rabbi Sonia Pills. A particular Misha Berach for us for this year, for this moment. This is an afternoon service, as we said, of healing and renewal. All the different ways that we are seeking and needing healing this year. One of them, of course, is healing of our bodies and our minds, as we have all in different ways endured some aspect of the COVID-19 pandemic. I invite you, as with everything, to read with me. This is a Misha Berach for those who climbed daily into their cars, buses, subways, and trains, for those who lost their jobs, homes, and food, for those anxiously waiting for what the future will bring. This is a Misha Berach for those who lost loved ones, colleagues, and friends in loneliness and helplessness without us noticing. This is for the addicts, the ones in need of medication, the ones in need of group support and therapy, who struggle with the absence of healthy habits. This is for the children, the elderly, and the ones with intellectual disabilities who do not understand why their lives suddenly and so drastically changed. This is for the ones who faced hells of violence and abuse in their homes without us being able to hear their screams. This is for the ones our free meals did not reach, the ones whose big dreams had to shrink, the ones whose futures are forever altered. This is for the ones who needed to stay home, coughing and gasping for air, the ones so often lonely in their hospital beds while others could rest. This is a Misha Berach. May the God who is a source of blessing remember the crying voice of God's children, suffering, anxious, and numb in their pain. God, hear our pain. God, heal our pain. El na refana la.
Misha Berach.
We offer now these readings for gratitude, as we know that one of the ways that we find healing and find connection is also in our expressions of gratitude amidst pain sometimes. So as we offer these, we'll come to some reflection questions too, but in the middle of this Yom Kippur, we think also about, with these words, what we are particularly grateful for today. Modim anachnu lach, for miracles and wonders are with us always, and goodness is woven through our lives. Our sages teach that miracles are astounding acts. They shake us to the core. And wonders, these, they say, are the miracles of which we are unaware. Well hidden in the laws of nature, great wonders reside. The rhythm of our breathing, the rise and fall of tides, the wing beats of a hummingbird, the choreography of bees, the cycles of the heavens, the seasons of the sky, and the sunlight on leaves transmuted into energy. How wondrously fixed and predictable. Migration of birds, circulation of blood. How utterly extraordinary is the ordinary. But goodness, is it with us always? Can we feel it even now? Consider this. The eye is narrow in its gaze, for at this very moment, some lives are bathed in miracle. A newborn child in the arms of parents who were past the point of hope. The happiness of improbable love after many years alone. Recovery from surgery, the easing of grief, food for the hungry, rain after drought, the first light of peace in a war-darkened land. May I look up from my dark places and be glad. Somewhere, even now, wondrous goodness blossoms forth. And we reflect on any or all of these questions. What has happened in my life since last Yom Kippur that makes me thankful? Have I grown during the past year in my ability to experience and express gratitude? Am I consistent in expressing gratitude to loved ones and friends? Do I look for things to feel grateful for or things to complain about? Do I feel appreciated by others? What have I done during the past year that has earned someone else's gratitude? What blessings have nourished me in recent years? What are some miracles that greet me every day? This prayer from some, not all, but some of our younger members of our congregation remind us and maybe perhaps even help us focus on that for which we might feel grateful this afternoon.
For each day I live, my God, for each day I live, I am grateful, grateful, forever grateful, grateful each day I live.
For each day I live, my God, for each day I live, I am grateful, grateful, forever grateful, grateful each day I live. I am gifted by your glory, I am lifted by your love, I am grateful, grateful, every day I
I'm grateful for this music and those voices. Holy living, the virtue of Kedusha. In the name of the daybreak and the eyelids of morning and the wayfaring moon and the night when it departs, I swear I will not dishonor my soul with hatred, but offer myself humbly as a guardian of nature, as a healer of misery, as a messenger of wonder, as an architect of peace. In the name of the sun and its mirrors, and the day that embraces it, and the cloud veils drawn over it, and the uttermost night, and the male and the female, and the plants bursting with seed, and the crowning seasons of the firefly and the apple, I will honor all life, wherever and in whatever form it may dwell, on earth my home, and in the mansions of the stars. Returning to our growth areas this year. Sometimes I just can't get over when I have anger toward others, but there are just some people I can't stand, and I think the current divisiveness in the country makes it worse. My family lives in such an isolated world. While I know there are tens of millions of people suffering from the COVID crisis, out of work, depressed, short on food and money, we have no one in our sphere who is feeling such pain. As a result, because it feels so distant, even though I know it's not, we have failed to act to help these people. I commit to learning deeply about microaggression, directiveness, and racism, and to changing my own behavior. I have allowed my fear and disgust about the current political environment to come out as rage in the presence of my family. My screaming fits do nothing to the people I feel rage toward, but do real harm to my loved ones who hear me raging. I have to learn better ways to soothe myself before I blow up in anger.
Let us pause in life's pleasures to count its many tears, while we all stop sorrow with the poor. There's a song that will linger forever in our ears. Oh, hard times come again no more. 'Tis the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. For many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times to lose, a time to rent, a time to sow, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. A time for peace. I swear it's not too late. Hard times come again no more. Hard times come again no
So Gabrielle Stravelli, who was just singing, has been singing in our quartet for the High Holidays with us for as long as I can remember, probably longer than I can remember. And she put that together for us for this afternoon when we talked with her about what we would be doing this afternoon. So you've seen her in a little box in others of our music, but it's wonderful also to bring her voice and her intention into our service here as we would in the sanctuary. So while Rabbi Frishman certainly needs no introduction, I want to simply say that it is always an honor and a blessing for a rabbi who succeeds her mentor to introduce and welcome her mentor to the bima, even if it's a digital bima this afternoon. So Rabbi Frishman, we're so glad that you are here to offer your words of Torah this afternoon.
Thank you, Rabbi Steiner. I have been so deeply moved by everything that you have offered and by the exquisite effort that everyone has brought to making sure that we can be together. Thank you. Shana Tova, I'd ask that together, perhaps we just take a really deep breath. It is a fearful thing to love, and oh, to lose. Our daughter Deborah was killed July 1st, 2019. We plunged into darkness. After the vast effort to shape her funeral, to cover her beautiful but destroyed body with the gentle earth, to return home and sit Shiva 7 days. From there, it became the summer of paralysis. I remember barely moving, eating terribly, unable to read, being polite to friends who were simply and perfectly wonderful to us. And butterflies. Butterflies became a sign that Deb's spirit hovered around us. One afternoon, we returned home to find a large brown and white butterfly on our screen door handle. Danny came near to it from the inside, and the butterfly slowly stepped up the screen to rest where Danny's lips were on the other side. A butterfly kiss. Dev and I gave each other butterfly kisses all the time. It was a summer ocean of vast grief, of loss and pain. It was dreamless, literally and metaphorically. I didn't think about the future. I was swept into the abyss of total uncertainty. One day in the fall, someone asked me, "You're a rabbi. How has this affected your theology?" "It's not on my mind," I responded. Theology? I couldn't have cared less about ideas. Feelings were everything. There was no reason for the accident, so there was no reason to be thinking. I only felt, deeply sad all the time, and true gratitude for all the love pouring into our lives, feeding us, embracing us, walking with us. Theology? It was a terrible accident. God didn't cause it. God didn't prevent it. It's not God's role to intervene physically. The modern sage Heschel said it well. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. Somehow by mid-October, I returned to community work. Those I volunteered with marveled at my ability to be present. I couldn't imagine doing anything that left me alone with myself. I live a life of privilege. In any other year or lifetime, this past year, pre-COVID, would have been a dream. Family, travel, the beauty of nature, the presence of dearest friends and family. But in the nightmare of losing Deborah, the beauty I saw reminded me of Viktor Frankl's words from Auschwitz. One evening when we were already resting on the floor of our hut, dead tired, a fellow prisoner rushed in and asked us to run out to see the wonderful sunset. Standing outside, we saw the whole sky alive with colors. The puddles on the muddy ground reflected the glowing sky. And then, after minutes of moving silence, one prisoner said to another, "How beautiful the world could be." Throughout this time, I have thought over and again how lucky I am. How many mothers and fathers through time have lost not one but many children? How many have witnessed the unbearable suffering and then death of a child starving or racked by terrible illness or murdered in hatred? What is my grief to theirs? And yet I know it is simply my grief. In the letter I wrote you last spring, I shared how deeply grateful I was and still am for your generosity of understanding, your desire to offer comfort, your silent presence, even as I was unable to look into your eyes or hold your hands. I knew you were there. Late January, something happened. I think it was a miracle. What's a miracle? Something otherworldly, a blend of coincidence and perfect timing and profound meaning. I'd been studying Kabbalah with a small group, preparing for a scholar in residence, the Rabbi Safir Neumann Eyal. The material was deep and intriguing. The scholar came from Israel at the end of January. I'd signed up for the whole weekend, including a 3 a.m. session. And walking there early that dark morning, I thought, who could I call now? Hey, my Israeli friend is awake. And so I phoned her, recalling that she had a close friend who was a teacher of Kabbalah. Perhaps these two women knew each other. And of course, it turned out they were one and the same. And as I met with the Rabbi privately that weekend, she shared that she'd been with my friend the day she had heard of Deborah's death. What a connection. And then she told me that she knew Deborah's spirit was with me and that she was fine. What mattered so deeply to me was not what God might have done or not. I cared that my beloved daughter was safe. Just that. Protected. Her spirit a light that would continue to infuse whatever universe she was in. Kabbalah is the art of receiving the divine. It begins with an awareness of the divine. However you choose to understand God, holiness is real, and the source of holiness is the creator of life and love and death, of course. Oh, the many faces of love. You can feel them. Young love, passion, abiding love, love for a parent or a sibling, a son, a daughter. So too, there are many faces of holiness. Here are two. The soul, nefesh, is woven into our bodies. The soul is our personal spirit, giving us life, yet as mortal as the body. When the body dies, the soul goes with it. We also have a spirit, neshama, which is eternal. This is God's breath within us. Neshama means both spirit and breath. Breath flows in and out. The neshama draws us to realize that God is within. And when our bodies die, our neshama flows back to God. Our neshama serves to inspire holiness over profanity, altruism over self-absorption. The moment that I learned about this distinction between the soul and the spirit from the Rabbi, and that she, an elevated person, deeply felt the life of Deborah's spirit, I burst into tears. The wall of ice that encased my heart shattered. From fear to faith. And so my theology reawakened. I understood why I felt so distant from Deborah, why I hadn't dreamed of her or felt her except as a butterfly. I saw that her soul perished with her body and that her spirit was full of light. She had so much yet to reveal. I missed her terribly, but I could accept that her influence continued as memory, of course, and in higher ways. With certainty, I knew now that her spirit flowered in the universe of divine being and life. That weekend, I asked myself, what was I neglecting? What had I yet to influence, to guide or inspire, to achieve spiritually? There was so much to do. Dazzled by what Deborah had achieved and impressed on others in her brief life, I felt the urge to use my gifts better, properly, spiritually. The season of paralysis was over. It became the season of chaos. March brought COVID, isolation, uncertainty, fear. Danny and I both tested positive on the morning of the first Seder. For 6 weeks, we moved slowly through each day, focused on breathing. I thought over and again how lucky we were. Health insurance, living together, video connection with our family, food delivery from our son. And through our apartment windows, we looked out upon the projects. I could only imagine the stress building within those tiny homes, poor people growing poorer, emotions escalating, hungry children and desperate parents. And then in May, the brutal, unnecessary death of George Floyd following the earlier killings of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, the outpouring of anger and love. While Danny and I hunkered down in COVID recovery, our white children rose up with so many others against racism. I am so proud of them, so grateful that their values and actions are aligned with social justice and compassion. One sent us thoughtful articles and books to read and organizations to support. We couldn't march, but we could study our own racism and reframe a more inclusive history of our nation, and then contribute towards realizing full economic and social equality. If I am only for myself, what am I? It is possible for me to live with less so that impoverished and victimized people have more. I affirm that responsibility. My life has been utterly blessed. For an unlucky person, I'm incredibly lucky. From loneliness to love. Love. When anger compels you to serve, to improve the world rather than tear it down. On the streets of New York City, tens of thousands of people of all colors walked in love to demonstrate that Black lives matter. I've taken a year off from the world as my grief has held me. That same grief has taught me that I'm neither unique nor alone, and there's much, much work to be done to demonstrate that life is meaningful. This past summer, between July and now, there's been a subtle shift for me from disbelief to acceptance. The sadness is always with me, and there are sudden moments when grief twists my heart. There is no sense to be made from Devra's accident and death. But here is what I've learned and what I believe. Grief can shine a light. Loss defines what we are missing. Loss reveals what we have, sharpening our taste for what we love and value. Loss reveals true character, and if we are able to hear, calls us to dismiss foolish distractions. The loss we feel from COVID and racial injustice too shines a light. Our eyes are now open to the profound possibility of change, the opportunity to stand up and walk the talk. The loss of Devra has opened me to greater love. I want my eyes to be open fully and my heart to more and more people. Try to see all children as your own. You will test the integrity of your heart and spirit. True love is expansive. At the end of my life, I want it to be said that I loved deeply, gave openly, served fully. That will be my art, I think. It was late afternoon when we heard that Devra had been killed. It took every ounce of focus to drive home where we collapsed. But among the first words I would say aloud were, we are going to live. We are making that choice to live. To say that grief shines a light means that in the darkest moment of my life, I choose life. And I choose love over the fear of losing love. From a poem by Marge Piercy. The discipline of blessings is to taste each moment, the bitter, the sour, the sweet, and the salty, and be glad for what does not hurt. Attention is love, what we must give children, mothers, fathers, pets, our friends, the news, the woes of others. What we want to change, we curse and then pick up a tool. Bless whatever you can with eyes and hands and tongue.
Are the one, for this I pray, that I may have the because we know that everything is you. You are the one, for this I pray, and I'll sing my song to you.
We offer now prayers for our countries, said in the plural intentionally. Going to read a beautiful adapted version of all of the prayers for all of the places we call home and the people who lead them. And then this week, colleagues shared with a larger rabbinic group in the Reform and Conservative movement, the audio you're about to hear with the visuals too, of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg offering the prayer for our country, I think at her nephew's bar mitzvah some years ago. So as we see her images and we hear her voice, her actual voice, reading their prayer book's version of this prayer, would invite each of us to consider our role in shaping the land, the home, this country that we live in the year to come.
Our God and God of our forebears, we ask your blessing for our country, for its government, for its leaders, advisors, judges, and all who exercise just and rightful authority. Teach them insights from your Torah, that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony to banish hatred and bigotry and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country. May this land under your providence be an influence for good throughout the world, promoting among all nations and people peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us say, Amen. Amen.
Zichrona livracha, may Justice Ginsburg's life be a blessing. May her memory inspire us to live in her legacy. We offer this prayer for all of us. Loving and holy God, it is a precarious time in our lives. At home, in our local community, throughout our nation, and across the world, we are facing challenges unlike we have ever experienced before. We therefore turn to you as our source of hope, healing, and comfort. We pray for our loved ones and our neighbors. May they be healthy and safe. In these uncertain economic times, we pray for our livelihoods and the strength to weather the storm. As we look to them for guidance and support, we pray for our healthcare workers, essential workers, school personnel, and our elected officials. May we all share the holiest of work, maintaining the age-old belief that we are of one human family, and may we nobly serve this ideal with selfless devotion through acts of material, spiritual, and emotional giving. May the spirit of respect, dignity, and reconciliation reside within our homes, our places of business, and in the corridors of political leadership, in our clinics and our classrooms, in our boardrooms, and in the halls of diplomatic appeal. Let each of us be a source of goodness, light, and healing, our actions reflecting the very highest ideals of principled living and ethical aspiration. In this spirit, we pray as well for the state of Israel and its people. May our homeland be an oasis of peace, secure and safe, open and welcoming, a wellspring of shalom for all who call that part of the world home. May the promised land be a land of promise for all. May the one who blessed the generations of long ago bless us now. May we thrive in our individual and communal endeavors, and may they bring to us a place of gentleness, of graciousness, of integrity, of safety, and of love. Amen. This next prayer is beautifully arranged by Janet and with Marina, a combination both of a prayer for Israel and of music of the Americana tradition that we hold so close. I don't know why the sound stopped at the end of that video. It did for me. So I'm going to let it be and just be sad that at least on my end, we missed the end of that audio, and we will make sure that all of these prayers and videos are available and on our website also when we're done with the holiday. This is our last group of shared confessions and sins from this year, mostly having to do with our family members. I find myself immensely frustrated with my teen son. I know he is struggling. All of our kids are right now, but I have very little patience for him. He acts out and I yell. It's an awful pattern and one that is not helping him. He deserves better. I lied to my stepson about something very important because I don't want confrontation or to lose him. I'm too quick to anger with my teenager. This year, I have been unfocused when parenting at times, looking at my phone and not fully listening to my child. I want to be better at this. The phone needs to go down more. I want to be present. I feel guilty for not spending more time with my mom, who is in the late stages of Alzheimer's. I don't think she recognizes me anymore and no longer speaks. I find it so painful to be around her this way and only visit once or twice every 2 weeks. I love her, but mourn the person she used to be. I resented the amount of time I needed to spend with my mother in her assisted care facility, even though I only went once a week. Then COVID hit and I was restricted from seeing her. And then she got COVID and died. Even though I saw her at the very end of her life, I felt and still feel that I cheated her of a compassionate passing. I ended a relationship while beginning another one. While it was important for the relationship to end, I feel like I did so untruthfully. My eyes are opened in a way that was wrong, regardless of how badly it needed to happen. In the midst of anxiety, stress, worry, grief, and middling depression of the COVID shutdown, I have taken out all of these feelings on my husband. I turned toward him in anger, blame, misery, self-pity. I vow to stand up, take responsibility for our family worries, the happiness of our children, my own personal journey, and make it a journey with him, alongside him, supporting him, letting him support me without expecting him to sustain me, and renew our partnership, which was once, and not completely gone, so strong, and make it stronger. I commit to understanding what fears hold me hostage from love. Lately, I've been focused on my spouse's flaws instead of his wonderful qualities. I've been mean, angry, and critical, and then upset at him for behaving in a mean, angry, and critical way, mirroring my own unbecoming behavior. I left my person alone in their greatest time of need and destroyed a true sense of security in our relationship. I have taken my husband for granted, been sharp toward him when I should have been kind. I have been overly emotional and failed to practice self-restraint with my husband and my kids, so that there was unnecessary turmoil rather than harmony, which would have been better for all of us. I have been mentally lazy and watched too much television when I could have been reading and developing my mind. In the coming year, I pray to practice kindness and generosity toward my family, to cultivate harmony in my home, and develop my mind more with reading. And finally, the older I get, the more I don't want to be married. Soon I'll be too old to dance with a new partner. We read together. For acts of healing and repair. God, our creator and guide, let us reflect on the healing acts by which we bring you into our lives, the acts of repair that make you a living presence in our words and deeds, acts of healing we have done by judging others with compassion, and acts of repair we have done through rigorous self-judgment, acts of healing we have done through kindness to parents and children, and acts of repair we have done through loyalty to spouses, partners, and friends. Acts of healing we have done through self-discipline and self-restraint, and acts of repair we have done by ridding ourselves of destructive behavior. Acts of healing we have done by seeing the holy in the ordinary, and acts of repair we have done by taking upon ourselves sacred obligations. Acts of healing we have done by seeking forgiveness, and acts of repair we have done by forgiving others. Acts of healing we have done by turning in love towards Zion, and acts of repair we have done by supporting the state of Israel. Acts of healing we have done by receiving life as a blessing and a gift, and acts of repair we have done by expressing gratitude and appreciation. acts of healing we have done by listening with an open mind to those we love, and acts of repair we have done by making our homes shelters of safety and peace. For all of these bring nearer the day when you shall be one, and your name shall be one. We offer this final reading and prayer before our final musical prayer this afternoon. We try to praise the mutilated world. Try to praise the mutilated world. Remember June's long days and wild strawberries, drops of wine, the dew, the nettles that methodically overgrow the abandoned homesteads of exiles. You must praise the mutilated world. You watched the stylish yachts and ships. One of them had a long trip ahead of it, while salty oblivion awaited others. You've seen the refugees headed nowhere. You've heard the executioners sing joyfully. You should praise the mutilated world. Remember the moments when we were together in a white room and the curtain fluttered. Return in the thought to the concert where music flared. You gathered acorns in the park in autumn, and leaves eddied over the earth's scars. Praise the mutilated world and the gray feather, a thrush lost, and the gentle light that strays and vanishes and returns.
Amen.
a breath, and perhaps just an opportunity to stretch your legs. And we will return to begin Yisker in about 5 minutes.